Hey everyone, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Lori J Journals. I am here with the second video in the series of Savage Stitches, which is a month-long challenge we're doing in the SavageArt Junk Journal group on Facebook, and I will include a link to that group in the description box down below. Last week, our first week, we did stitching with, we made clusters. So we asked members to stitch using sewing machine or hand stitching. This actually has a little bit of both. This is one of the clusters I made. You can do whatever you want with these. I turned mine into a altered paper clip, so it now can be clipped into a journal. And you'll see, actually, I have one of my clusters here as well. So what we're going to do this week is we are going to create pockets or envelopes using stitching. Okay, and there's really only one rule here. You cannot take an already made journal envelope. Okay, so no using store-bought envelopes. We are using the stitching essentially to create our envelopes and our pockets. That's not to say you're not allowed to use glue. If you need glue, certainly, I'm going to add some more light here. If you need more, oh, my light's dead. Never mind. Ah, there we go. Okay, sorry for that. If you need to add a little glue to help hold place, that's fine. The point I'm making is we're not using store-bought envelopes and stitching over them. We're taking otherwise plain old paper and we're turning them into pockets and envelopes. So I'll just show you a couple of examples here that I've made. And you don't have to do anything this intricate. If you're not into painting and inks, you by no means do you have to do that. And the ones I'm going to create with you today are not going to have that. But just to show you a couple of examples. So this is actually made from a junk mail flyer. Okay. So originally it was just an open flat. And then I turned it into, using stitching, I turned it into an envelope. Okay, that's one example. And then this one, similar, it was a package or a piece of junk mail, a straight piece of thicker paper, and then I used hand stitching along the edges here to fold it up and turn it into a pocket. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do today. I'm not going to do any painting or anything like that. If that's something that you find joy in, please do that. It's a lot of fun, but I'm trying to keep it specific to the challenge and also keep these videos short, okay? So I'm gonna do two different ones today. The first one I'm gonna do, I took a piece of this. So this is similar to scrapbook paper. It came out of a set of collage papers, okay? So you might cut these pieces apart and use them for collage. I decided it would make a cool envelope, okay? So I folded it on the design line, and then I folded it over like that. Now you can certainly use, if you have an envelope punch, where you take paper and you punch all the cutouts and the corners, you can certainly do that. Nothing's stopping you. What I'm trying to show you is that you don't need a whole lot of tools and you don't need a specific punch or template to do it. You can simply create a straight envelope out of a rectangle of paper. All right. Sometimes I like to round the corners, right? So you can do that. And I will, oops, that didn't work out so well. Let's do it again. I'm using the wrong one. That's why I'm not getting the results I wanted. There we go. That's better. Okay. And you don't have to do this. I'm going to do this one with my sewing machine, so it'll be really easy to get around the round corners, so to speak. And so that's why I'm doing this. I'm having a little bit of trouble with this corner. Let's see. I'll have to trim that up a little. And then I'm going to do these two so that everything matches. Now I know I didn't do a how-to, but just so you know, I quite literally took a rectangle of paper and I folded it based on where the design line was, but you can fold it to be whatever shape or size you want. If you want a deeper envelope, take a longer sheet and fold up more. I just thought that this was pretty good. Now this also comes up kind of high. I'm looking at it now and I'm feeling like I want to trim off a little bit of this so that the pocket part of the envelope goes a little bit lower. So I am going to trim that off a little bit, and that's no big deal. And again, size and shape is all preference. And I'm going to round these corners again just to make sure everything matches. Yeah, I actually like that better. I like that there's more space there. Now, the next consideration. This is a nice clean white inside. I really don't have to do anything with it, but if you wanted, you could certainly line it with another kind of paper. You could paint it. For the sake of keeping this video fairly short, I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm just going to leave it clean white inside. I am going to take a circle punch, and I actually prefer an oval, but I didn't bring it over with me. And I'm going to just create that opening at the top, right? So that when I sew it, there's that spot there. You don't have to do that, and you can make it really any shape you want. I've also done some which are kind of fun, where you make a teeny cut right there, and then you kind of peel them down so that it's like torn and peeled over. You can do whatever suits you. Right now, the challenge is all about stitching, so I'm not focusing too much on anything else. I'm gonna come over here to my sewing machine and show you how I'm gonna stitch. What kind of stitching you use is up to you. So let me come back here for just a minute. So the design here is kind of like a golden brown. On this side, it's blue and brown and white and this kind of gray here. I happen to have black thread in my sewing machine, so that's what I'm going to use. And if I used a zigzag stitch, I feel like it would bring too much black into this. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a straight stitch, and I'm going to do it a little bit messy. I find that you're better off starting from the beginning, not trying to be perfectly straight. And then it creates kind of like that fun junk journal look. Okay, one more thing before we get started. Obviously you can't stitch around here or you will seal your envelope shut. But what you can do is stitch around here first and then fold up and continue all the way around. It's really a matter of preference. I think what I'm going to do, I think first I'm going to stitch around here because none of that gets sealed anyway. So let's start there. And I find when I have rounded corners that it's easier if you start on the straight edge and then you can turn the corner. Sorry about that, I just lost one of my lights. Okay, so again, kind of like a little bit of a sloppy. I like that. Again, it doesn't look like I was trying to make it perfectly straight. At least I hope it doesn't look that. I hope it looks that way. All right, and that's what it looks like on the inside. And now I'm going to start my stitching here with the envelope open, and then I'm going to fold it under and continue. Okay, so I did some stitching across the top here before I sealed all this shut. Okay, so now I have that nice kind of messy look. And one of the other things that you can do, and I might, well, I can't, I kind of blew it with this. I would have had to have done it before I sealed it all, but you can go around twice. It looks fun when you have like a messy straight stitch all the way around and you do more than one. I just realized I can't, because if I wouldn't be able to do this because I already closed the envelope. Okay, so very simply, I got an envelope out of a piece of paper. That's it. And then of course I would come back and embellish this. I will add some stuff to this. I might go back and finish in fact, let's do that now. I'm gonna finish the stitching around on this side so it doesn't look incomplete. Okay, and what I did there, just fix this thread here, is I finished this around here. You know, looking at this now, I think I would have liked to have lined it with a little bit of gold paper or something on the inside. And you can certainly do that. But again, I wanted the video to be short and focused on what our challenge is, which is the stitching. So simply, you're taking a rectangle piece of paper and you're sewing around to make an envelope. And what you do with the envelope and how you embellish it is completely up to you. Okay, simple as that. All right, here's the second one we're gonna do. Of course, I promised that you can always use a sewing machine or you can hand stitch. And the next one we make is going to be a hand stitch. And I have decided that I want to use this pretty paper, which is I've shown this in my videos before. This is really pretty. It's artist paper that comes free inside of the Somerset Studio magazine. And it has some substance to it, which is really nice. But what I want to do is I want to create the envelope out of this, and I want the inside lining to be book page. So I just took a piece of, this is very thin book paper. It's from a thesaurus, I believe. And you can use collage medium, you can use matte medium. Honestly, I'm just going to use glue stick. Quicker, I don't have to get out a brush. I can get coverage really fast, and I can go back if I need to add some more adhesive. Not really concerned too much with what part of the writing is showing or anything like that, because it's just the lining. It's inside the envelope. It's just to give interest. Where this one was white inside, I wanted to create a little more interest here. Okay, I'm just going to use my bone folder, make sure that this is nice and smooth. And again, it's a piece of that thin dictionary or thesaurus paper, so I know it's not going to be difficult to fold. And then I'm just going to trim off the edges because I don't want to see, you know, the broken edges. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with my, with this paper cutter lately. So I'm just going to be a little extra careful and do it from the thick side of the paper, because I think it'll be better so that I think I just need a new blade, and I don't want it to chew up the dictionary side. So I'm doing it thick side down. Okay, so I have a nice rectangle so that I can create a pocket, because the other one I did an envelope. This one I'm going to do a pocket because I do want to make sure that I show you both. And these edges I'm just going to trim off with my scissors. Okay, and so now I have a nice lining on the inside. Okay, now I like that up here I don't see the bold word that's defined or whatever. So I'm going to leave it, I'm going to leave it at the bottom and just have this open writing at the top. And there's no measurement here. Again, I'm just eyeballing whatever I think. And again, this would actually make a really cute envelope, but I do want to show you a pocket because I did an envelope with the other one. And I want to clean up these edges a little because I don't think they're totally straight. Okay, that looks better. And I'm a sucker for rounded corners, so here I go again. And you could round the corners at the bottom too. I think I'm going to leave them as is. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be a pocket, and you can certainly do a double pocket if you had the same paper and you wanted to make another one and have them hug here. But I'm just going to keep it simple. Again, focused on the challenge. So the next thing is to do hand stitching. And for this, I'm not much of a measuring girl. But for this, I am going to, and I'm going to tell you why. And if you're using dark paper, just use, I like to use like a white paint pen, but this is a light paper, so that white probably won't show up. So I'm going to use a little bit darker. I'm going to use a blue one, and you can use a pencil. You can use anything. You're going to poke through it, so it doesn't matter. And here, I measured my holes 1/2 centimeter, and I feel like they're too many. So this time around, I'm going to go with 1 centimeter. And all I'm doing is making a dot. I have to decide how far in I want to go. And I think I'm going to go, I like to make things easy. So let me show you. Oops, knocked into my camera, I'm sorry. This line right here is a really easy place to start. Okay, it's like there's the edge of the ruler and then the centimeter starts here. And so measuring from the edge here to this line makes an really easy place to start. Let me draw it in a little. I was drawn back because I was working on my sewing machine. So let's get you a little bit closer here. Sorry, I know this isn't the best camera work. All right, but I do want you to be able to see. Okay, so I am going to measure in to that one line that I mentioned. All right, and then I'm going to put my, my holes 1 centimeter apart. Okay, so let me just really quick get my starting point right there. And then I'm just going to continue down and make, oop, and I just smudged it, which is okay. This is demonstration purposes, so. All right, 1 here, 1 here. And I'm just making dots at the centimeter marks. Those are going to be my holes. Now you have a choice. Ooh, I'm totally out of frame here. You have a choice of whether you want to go all the way to the top or if you just want to tie up to the pocket. I think I'm going to go all the way around. So you're just continuing, making your 1 centimeter marks. And again, you're going to poke holes, so it's okay that you have a dot. Okay, and just keep going all the way around. You can imagine how long this took when I did 1/2 centimeters. Halfway through, I was like, oh, that's too many holes. It's taking forever. Okay, there we go. Now, what you do next, your method is totally up to you. I just wanted to make sure that I had everything in the right spot, and you can see I made a little mistake here, and that's okay. So I just take my awl and I make a little poke just to establish the hole. And then what I do after is I go back and I find the hole and I make it a little bit bigger. And it's okay that it's a little bigger because you're going to put thread through there. And if you have to make it a little bigger as you're working with your needle, you can certainly do that. And how big your hole needs to be really depends on the thread that you use. I'm going to use an embroidery thread. Okay. I'm going to come back and do the same thing, and I'm going to do it all in one swoop this time. I'm not going to make the holes first and then come back. I want to kind of keep the video moving along. The other thing to consider is whether you want to go along the bottom fold or not, right? So obviously you don't need to go along the bottom fold in order to make the envelope seal or the pocket seal because there's already a fold there. But for design purposes, you might decide you want to go all the way across. Okay, so I have my holes all the way. And yes, I've made a little bit of a mess here, but it's okay because I'm likely going to go back and use some inks to ink this up. So I'm not going to sweat it right now. So do you want to bring it across the bottom here? That's, that's personal preference. A couple of things to consider is where you start and end, because you might want to tie off and create a bow, or you may want to create a dangle. Here's the thread I'm going to use. It's a really pretty kind of, I don't know, you can kind of call it tie-dye, but because the color changes as it's so thin, you can't really see. The color changes, but it was like the perfect colors that go with the paper that I used. And I'm going to use an embroidery needle. I'm going to use a lot of extra thread. The last one that I made, I found that I had like just the right amount. I want to make sure I have enough to make it all the way around. So here's my embroidery needle. I'm using one that's not super thick, but obviously as an embroidery needle, it's thicker than, a typical sewing needle. You could certainly use regular needle and thread, but I think what we want is we want it to show, right? So, okay, so if I put holes across the bottom, which I didn't, I'd probably start in the middle, go all the way around and come back, and that way I could tie it off in a bow here. But I didn't put holes along the bottom, so I'm not going to do that. What I could do is no, I can't do that either because it doesn't go all the way around. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to start here. And you start from the back. And what you do down here is totally preference. Okay, so I'll show you, for example, before I do anything else, I could, and by the way, you don't have to decide this until the end. If you leave some string hanging, you can completely wait until the end to make this decision. Okay, but you can make a little bow like that, which actually looks really cute, and I think I'll leave it for now. You can tie it off in a knot and dangle something from it. You can really do whatever you want, and you're always going, sorry if I'm going out of frame here, you're always going back to front with this. And you just have to watch because it tends to want to knot up. Yep, and just like that, it happened to me. The last one I made, I had to cut out and start all over because I allowed it to knot. But you just want to make sure every time you pull through that it's pulling through clean. And you just go front to the back to the next hole. And again, watch your knots because here we go, more. I don't know why embroidery thread has a tendency to knot up, but let me just make sure. The further along you get, the less of a problem this seems to be. It just tends to happen in the beginning. All right, because your thread is long. And so go to the hole from the back. And you see it kind of, because we're going back to front, you get this kind of angled stitch. And I like the way it looks. You could play with it. You can go back around and do X's if you go through twice. And really the whole idea, we wanted to have fun with stitching in this challenge, and we know not everybody has sewing machines. And actually some people, even if they have sewing machines, this is called slow stitching, I guess, because you're doing it by hand. It also, you have more flexibility, if you're traveling or you're working in a room other than your room where you have your sewing machine set up. Maybe you're crafting while watching something on TV in another room or hanging out in your kitchen, wherever you are. You don't need your sewing machine. And this is more of that. I'm just watching for those knots because they really like to, and I'm just taking it all the way around. And I made a little bit of a mess with my blue pen. I was working quickly and not carefully, unfortunately. But again, not such a big deal. Depends on, what matters to you. Now, if I want, I can start leaning in the other direction. If I want the slants, right, to go in the direction I'm going in. Whoops. I start taking them around this way. There's one of those knots again. All right, there we go. And yes, whoops, I lost my needle. It does take a little longer, but that's okay, right? So much of what we do is the joy of making as much as it is our end product. And I think everyone in this group will say that, right? Yes, we want a nice finished product, but it's as much about the fun of making as it is what we're making. I know that's what it is for me. Crafting is an escape for me. It's it's my me time when I'm not working and I want to create with my hands and have fun with color and texture. So it's okay that it takes a little longer sometimes for something that we're having fun doing. Now, you saw that I measured. You don't have to measure. If you want to eyeball and poke your holes, a little more. Ooh, I skipped a hole. I got to go back. And it happens, talking and crafting at the same time. And it's no big deal. This stitching, that's kind of one of the benefits of this stitching, is it's really easy to self-correct. if you can. You know, I always have such a hard time rethreading a needle when I'm on camera. It's just one of those things, right? Murphy's Law. Okay. So I was talking about measuring. You don't have to measure your holes. And I've said, like, I often don't measure when I'm crafting. I'm the queen of eyeballing. But with this, I mean, the stitches are kind of big, right? And it's what you're highlighting in your make. So I didn't measure the very first time I did this. And then as I kept going, I decided I think it looks a little bit better when we measure them out so that the stitches are evenly distributed, because that's the design element here, right, is the stitching. We're almost done. And I can't get over how perfectly this thread that this embroidery thread that I chose matches the paper that I chose. I didn't pick them out together, but I picked out the paper, and then I went and looked before I started recording, what thread am I going to use? And there it was, the perfect blending of colors. We're almost done. Finishing it off. I'm sorry if I'm not doing a great job on camera here. I'm trying to pay attention to everything. Okay, so now I've made it all the way around. I have my little bow on this end, and I think it makes sense now for me to have a bow on this side too. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around to the back and loop back in so that my string is on this side. I'm going to take my needle out. And it's a little hard to manipulate, but I think I can do it. There we go. Oh, I gotta try it again, sorry. All right, let's try this again. It's a little different than tying with two different sides. You're working with one string, and it's a little hard to manipulate, as you can tell. I can't. I'm going to use my awl for a little bit of help poking that string through. There we go. There we go. And now I've got a little bow on each side. How cute is that? This one's a little bit bigger. Maybe I didn't do the best job here. Hang on. But you get the idea. And if you want to not have a bow and you want to have a dangle or something instead, you can certainly do that. But there's your pocket. I didn't even need glue. You could certainly secure with glue if you feel like you need to. And then you can embellish this around, and you've got stitching all the way around, and it's really cute. You didn't even need a sewing machine. Just about a yard of, or maybe even less, of embroidery thread. You can also, by the way, if you have any, let me show you, if you have any like embroidery ribbon like this, you can also use this. It goes through very easily. It's soft. And there you go. So now I'll embellish them, and I'll include a final photo, and you can see envelopes and pockets. We're stitching envelopes and pockets this week. Remember to hashtag your makes in the Facebook group with hashtag SavageStitches2 for week 2. And we can't wait to see your creations. Have a good one, everyone. See you next week.